Hi everyone, Nubkeks here, and welcome to a Here's the Storm discussion topic video. So, just the other day, I did a video discussing about the role of support and whether support picks can carry in Hero League. And what I focused on in that particular video, again, you can find that video on my channel. It was being posted just a couple of days before this one. I'll put a link in the description as well. But that video basically was going around the argument. I stayed away from the idea of supports in the game. Okay, so how they actually function in the game, and said instead, in terms of your drafting, support heroes, again, the basic argument of that video was support heroes, you have so few heroes to pick from that in the draft, you're better off going for a damage hero because it gives you much more room to respond to the synergies that you can create within your own team and exploiting the weaknesses of your enemy's team comp. Whereas within support, you're much more limited in that. So that was kind of the argument I made in that video. Lo and behold, just 9 hours ago, again, this is in Europe, GMT, about 3 p.m. on the 27th. So, hey, great, awesome. I'm psychic or something. But MVP Black's Merryday, who is the support for MVP Black, they are the best professional Heroes of the Storm team in the world, undisputed. They won the Spring Global Championship pretty much unopposed. They kind of crushed everyone. And pretty much for the foreseeable future, they're going to be the team that's going to be winning probably everything because they just seem to be unbeatable right now. They're on something like a 30 series win streak or something. I'm not exactly sure, but they've won pretty much everything. A dispute for a long time. For the better part of a year, I'd say. They've just won everything they've played. But anyway, he is the support... He's the support player for that team, and he has made this post. And again, shout out to or_GG on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit for translating this. This was on Korea's Inven board, some sort of forum. I don't know what it is. But apparently he's been posting a lot, and he's talking about his frustrations with the support role. So what we're going to do, this is quite long. We're going to go through it. Again, the link to this original post, once again, shout out to this guy, will be down in the description below. So if you want to go and check out his post, upvote it, all the rest, comment on it, take part in the discussion. There's over almost 300 comments. So you can get involved with that over on Reddit as well. We're going to read through it. I'll probably read through most of it. And then I'm going to give my thoughts on it as well. We're going to talk about what's kind of going on here, and I'm going to explain a bit about the context and that sort of stuff. So anyway, let's get into it, guys. Let's see why he is frustrated with support, what he thinks the problems are, and what can be improved. So support. He feels that support is a heal slave. Uther landing a good divine shield, Rhaegar with a perfect ancestral, Kharazim hitting a good palm is the most basic job of support, because that's the limit of what this role can contribute to the team. Is there anything else a support can really do? The current system is set up so that laning is led by assassins, ganks are led by warriors, and jungling, merc camps, are synchronized together with your team. All support can do here really is to follow your warrior around. You follow up your tank's CC with your own CC and land one good ult during a team fight. That's the limit of this role. So yeah, he's talking about basically, you know, what can support do? What is their purpose in the game? Again, to go back to, I was gonna make a video on this before, and the idea of kind of carrying versus being a supportive player. I don't think it's purely limited to support as well, this problem. I think it also ties over to some of the other roles as well. For example, I think one of the big issues with Leoric at the moment is that Leoric is a supportive character. Leoric can't really do much on his own. Whereas if you think back to Leoric's glory days, I remember a few months ago when I was playing, I think it was before they changed the scaling of heroes, and they also nerfed Leoric, but he used to be able to like clear waves just almost instantly with his Q, and he was very powerful. But basically, I might even make this video, a separate video on the idea of being a carrying hero versus a supportive hero, just in terms of roles in general. But basically, you can carry in a number of ways. Number one, you can have, well, wave clear. Being able to clear waves is a big deal. Gank potential is a big deal. Big team fight impact. Being able to destroy structures. Being able to skirmish, so smaller fights. Being able to duel one-on-one, like solo lane. All that sort of stuff. There's a lot of things you can do to kind of carry the game. Supports are really limited in that regard, and this is what he's kind of saying here. So, you know, laning is led by assassins, right? So assassins, just by virtue, and specialists as well, by virtue of having a lot of damage, right? Well, that obviously translates in most cases to having a lot of siege damage as well. So assassins are just generally speaking, they're the best at wave clear, usually. Some assassins aren't good at it, and that tends to be like a big downfall to those particular heroes. Warriors can be okay at wave clear. Supports are really bad at it, generally speaking. Tassadar has got good... Okay, so supports that have good wave clear, just baseline, right? Without any talents or anything. Tassadar, Brightwing, and Rhaegar. They all have fairly good wave clear just from the get-go. Tyrande, Kharazim, Morales, and Uther to a certain extent are all going to be bad no matter what, right? They're never good at wave clear. Lily can talent into it, but crucially, the talent that really helps her with wave clear is level 7 talent. I forget what it's called. Maybe Lightning Serpent, but it makes her Cloud Serpent attacks, her W attacks bounce around to multiple enemies, which makes her okay at wave clear. That's no longer a viable talent, which we're going to be talking about as we go through this because of Cleanse. Basically, she has Cleanse at level 7 now, so at high level play, you're just simply not able to take that wave clear talent because Cleanse is just too good, right? Cleanse is mandatory at high level play. It's not a choice. It's you need it. Malfurion can talent into wave clear. Uther kind of can, right? So Uther could go for some AoE stuff and Holy Fire and things like that, but it's pretty weak. You're not going to see it much. Malfurion can kind of go into wave clear and he's okay at that stage. But for the most part, supports are just really bad at wave clear. Also, something to bear in mind is he's talking about support. So he's the main support player, okay? So for MVP Black, they have a dedicated tank, they have a dedicated ranged assassin, and this is kind of representative of all teams, right? Dedicated tank, dedicated ranged assassin, dedicated support player. Then they have 2 flex players. One typically plays melee assassins or bruisers. The other typically plays either like a secondary support or a specialist. All right. So Tassadar is always the secondary support. This is like Merryday is the main support player, does not play Tassadar. He'll be playing one of the other ones, any of the other ones. Tassadar will be taken by their secondary support. Their secondary support, that flex player normally plays like Tassadar or Abathur, or then maybe Sylvanas, or even I think Tyrael once. Tyrael's obviously a warrior, a very supporty type warrior, a Tyrael. But yeah, he doesn't get to play Tassadar, so that's one of the wave clear heroes gone. Why do people only play Rhaegar and Tyrande in Hero League? And that's in all caps here. What I want to say is that there's nothing support can do to lead a team in a Hero League environment where you don't know the strengths of your team and there aren't any proper communication. So without the proper communication, basically what you do in most of these heroes is you have to follow your team around and you have to help them out. Like, if you're playing Kharazim, all right, your wave clear is terrible. You can't take merc camps. You're not going to solo kill anyone. You can't solo lane against anyone, really. Basically, all you can pretty much do is follow your team around out and help them out, you know? Whereas, let's say, if I'm playing Arthas, for example, well, I can lead some ganks. I can solo lane for a bit if I have to. I can start doing work on siege camps. Sonya, who I think is probably the best single pick in the game right now. Yeah, Sonya, for Hero League especially. She can solo lane pretty well. She's got really good wave clear. She's really good against merc camps. She can gank. She's got massive teamfight impact. Sonya can carry in so many different ways. That's why I think she's the #1 pick right now. Whereas, again, if you're on Malfurion, like, if you talent into it, okay, you got some good wave clear, but you're not going to go solo merc camps. You're going to do it really slowly. You're not going to kill anyone in the lane on your own. It's all about sticking with your team and helping your team out. So Rhaegar can push a lane by himself in place of having someone leaving the lane, and you can feel good when you save a teammate. Tyrande can follow up crowd control and increase kill potential with Hunter's Mark, so you get the feeling that you helped out securing a kill with your team. Alright, this is why, and if you look at my top 3 support characters for myself are Tassadar, Tyrande, and Uther, actually. And since then, if you notice, during my Road to Rank 1 series, I picked up Rhaegar, and Rhaegar became my most played. So in terms of the heroes, I played Rhaegar and Tyrande most in my Road to Rank 1. I play a lot of Tassadar, but I didn't actually play him in a Road to Rank 1, because again, he's not really a solo hero healer pick. I think he's actually better at solo healing than people give him credit for, but in specific circumstances, he's good against single target bursts because he can shield obviously one person at a time, does a lot of healing, but he's not fantastic just generally as a solo healer. Also works well if you got a lot of sort of basic attacky heroes. You can heal up a lot with your level 4 talent, which makes your basic attacks heal. I forget what it's called. But yeah, I gravitate towards Tyrande, Tassadar, Rhaegar. I enjoy Uther because there's a lot of stuff that's going on with Uther, but I don't. I enjoy playing Karazim for the mobility, but I haven't enjoyed him recently. He hasn't clicked with me at all. You just feel you're too vulnerable, and again, lack of that solo carry. I don't like Brightwing, but I haven't played Brightwing since she was changed. So she was changed so that her Q does more damage. So I might actually enjoy her now that she's got some wave clear. I enjoy Lily, but that's because I build Lily to do damage. I build into that Cloud Serpent talent build, which is not what you should really go for, I suppose, at the top level of play where cleanse is so important. And with her getting cleanse as of the last patch, the last big patch, you kind of have to go for cleanse if you're in high level play. And then Morale is obviously a heal bot. Malfurion, you're going to run around healing. Yeah. But these heroes, so Tyrande, you can land CC yourself, and Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark, that's a big impact ability. That's really underrated. Like, making someone vulnerable is absolutely huge. It's huge. That's why she's so powerful. And again, these days she's built with Starfall now, which is again another damage ability. So she's all about kind of damage, zone control, and helping increasing kill potential, which is something active you're doing. Rhaegar has the potential to, he can push a lane, which is awesome, and then he's got that big impact heroic. Whereas with Karazim, you're kind of following your teammates. All you're doing is healing your teammates, right? With Uther, pretty much all you're doing is healing your teammates and cleansing people. You don't have any of these other roles. Okay, but with the others, it's just frustration. You can only heal, and there's not much you can contribute directly by yourself. Now, some people can be just happy with healing and saving an ally, but what I'm trying to advocate is to patch the game so that even players who don't want to play support can feel like they have an active role in the game. Right now, everyone but Tyrande is all focused on heals, simply saving a teammate. Again, so he's excluding Tassadar from this because Tassadar is not a solo support hero. He's not someone he actually has to play, right? Everyone but Tyrande is focused on heals, simply saving a teammate. That's the biggest problem, why it's called a heal slave, a heal bot. If that's the intention, might as well call it a healer, not a support. In the very least, I want supports to be patched so that it can have real influence in the game based on the pick or the composition, like Rhaegar and Tyrande. Yeah, I mean, this basically sums up the frustration is that, Rhaegar, at least he's got some wave clear, and the totem he can throw down can have some impact in a team fight. Tyrande, she can apply that single target kill pressure. However, the other supports really don't bring anywhere near as much as that. They are, for the most part, just healing up their teammates, maybe keeping their teammates alive a little bit, but they don't bring any aggression. They don't bring much playmaking, and they certainly don't have much in the way of wave clear or the ability to take mercs or anything like that. Interesting here, I want to mention this. So in my previous video, I was talking about supports versus like assassins or damage dealers just in general. And I was saying that in terms of the draft, you can carry a draft more picking assassins or specialists than opposed to picking supports. I think also the same with warriors. However, it's really interesting. He's talking obviously in terms of gameplay, right? He's saying that warriors are actually the biggest carries in terms of gameplay. Honestly, there aren't any heroes that can lead a game among supports. If you want to win, play a tank or assassin. Don't Tyrande and Rhaegar carry games. It's the tank that's good, not you, including me, and this is the best support player in the world. Warriors are the real stars. The game was always about warriors. Ever since I saw MMOR, they were another team. Bring on the triple warriors, I went, warriors are the best. You only get the illusion of contributing to win. Warriors do everything. Tanks are the ones that land the first CC too. So I think this is really interesting, is that for the most part, it's warriors that initiate the team fight. Warriors begin the team fight. They land that starting crowd control. And Merryday, he's saying that obviously some supports can follow up. So, Uther might follow up with a double stun. Brightwing might follow up with a polymorph, or Tyrande with her stun. Malfurion might follow up with the roots, but I mean, you're not going to initiate a team fight with a Malfurion root. It's just not going to happen, right? Because people see it coming. It's warriors, for the most part, that start off a team fight with a big stun. Some specialists or some assassins can do it. Most notably, I would say Thrall. Thrall has a really powerful initiate with Sundering, so that's one of the things that makes Thrall pretty much a top pick right now, is that the Sundering, unlike pretty much everything on this side of the hero picks, he's one of the very, very, very few heroes over on this side that can actually initiate a team fight with that ability, which is what makes him so good. For the most part, you're looking at your warriors to initiate the team fight, and then the rest of your team follow up. So warriors are kind of, they lead the charge in terms of skirmishes and in terms of team fights. That's what he's talking about here. That's why the game is about the warriors. They start the fight, and that's what happens. As a support, you can only be as good as your teammates are. You can't carry the game. If they're playing absolute rubbish, well, you can make them, you can kind of compromise. You can make their mistakes less punishing to your team, but you can't create many plays yourself. It's very difficult to make it happen. One of the things that people really noticed and commented on a lot in my Road to Rank 1 series was that I played Tyrande in a few of those, the first few games, like the really low MMR games. And I was able to carry the game as Tyrande. It was like top hero damage, just killing people, getting kills left, right, and center. That's a rare thing. That was purely just because, again, it was the very start of those placement games. You saw as we went later in Hero League, obviously, and MMR became more normalized as to what I'm closer to. That became much less of an option, and it became kind of, my support picks became much more support picks. I think that's really interesting, though, that, again, just to focus on warriors because they have the CC. It's a really interesting thing, and that I'm going to talk about. I don't think he talks about it here, but I just think it's really interesting in terms of design, isn't it? That warriors not only bring, the tanky front line and can often bring damage, but they also bring the majority of the crowd control, and very importantly, the majority of the initiating crowd control. Zeratul can also initiate a fight with Void Prison, also worth noting. But yeah, it's warriors that bring most of that. Whereas supports bring a lot of healing, they bring some follow-up CC, but yeah, for the most part, that's what they do. They heal their teammates. They can follow up on what their teammates do and heal them up, but that's kind of it, right? Assassins and specialists even, they bring a lot of wave clear, they bring a lot of damage in the team fight, so they can carry the game from that damage perspective. They can solo merc camps, they can solo waves, they can do a lot of damage, they can win skirmishes because they can be active doing that damage. And I think, actually, he's talking about warriors. I think overall in Hero League, I think that I'd lean towards assassins more so than warriors as being things that could carry. But warriors can still carry as well, but assassins are really strong because, again, if you're playing with weaker teammates or against a weaker team, it gives you the freedom to really carry. Whereas I think if you're playing more at your skill level, when you're playing a more evenly match-made game, then I think warriors do obviously ascend to a stronger carry role. But yeah, like Game of Warriors. So I'm kind of thinking this through as we go, right? Also interesting is that I've heard someone mention this before, but I think it's even in an MF Pallytime stream with Q8. Maybe I think I was watching it last night before I went to bed. But I think they were mentioning there that, like, if you get like 2 specialists on your team, you often lose the game, which is kind of crazy, isn't it? But I think that is true, and that kind of reflects my experience as well. That, multiple assassins is good, but having multiple specialists is often crippling to your team. It's not enough burst damage, it's not enough control. It's too much wave clear and map control with not enough teamfight presence. I think, it's funny the way that they've designed the game, that you tend to want one specialist and no more, multiple assassins because assassins are so strong, warriors obviously being a leading role, and then support. With the support, it's really crazy. It's really crazy. He's talking about cleanse here as well. So cleanse should have been buffed rather than nerfing CC. Let's just read through this and then we'll talk about it after. So they should have buffed cleanse rather than nerfing CC. So supports have to do more work. The big thing is that Rhaegar and Brightwing are the only supports that can push a lane properly. The reason you play Tyrande, if you don't have Rhaegar, is all the same. Others are frustrating because you can't push a lane. Tyrande helps you increase kill potential so you feel like you have an active role in game. Other heroes severely lack that. It's designed so that's all about your team doing well rather than you. Some say Tassadar can push a lane. He can. He's really good at pushing a lane. You don't use him, Tassadar, as a solo support much. He doesn't get to play him. The Tassadar player on his team in particular is Kyocha. It's not Merryday. But buffing Cleanse will make it a must pick. Cleanse by nature has to be a must pick. It's the star of being a support, but by nerfing CC, they ended up making supports even more of a heal bot. Am I the only one who thinks this? So I think this is really interesting, right? So Cleanse, let's talk about Cleanse. Cleanse is a level 7 talent. It makes you unstoppable. Most supports have it. They just added it to Lily in the last patch because Cleanse is so important. I think Cleanse is really interesting. It's absolutely essential, what he's saying. It's a must pick at top level play. Lower level play, Hero League play, even in general, it becomes much less important. Cleanse becomes much more impactful the more organized your team is and the better the players on both teams are. Like, if you're playing in like Silver League, Cleanse is really not going to be important. In fact, you might not even bother picking Cleanse at all. You're probably better off without Cleanse. Cleanse, it's a really short duration ability, so for 1 second, I think it's 1 second, it makes your teammates unstoppable. So it removes all crowd control from them and it makes them immune to all crowd control for 1 second. Absolutely massive at the top level play where he's playing, where you've got organized teams that are going to chain CC together, which are really good at focusing a target, and they'll just try to destroy and blow up that target, one target, in like as quickly as possible. That's one of the most effective ways to play, and Cleanse protects your team from that. Also, you can pre-cleanse stuff, because these top level guys, they can see it coming and they can pre-cleanse so that the targets don't even get stunned in the first place, or when someone does get stunned and starts to get focused, they can cleanse them out of it. They can just save their teammates from basically saves them from a death. That's why it's so important. But it is very difficult to use Cleanse, so you only see it at these top levels of play. And again, when you've got team communication and when the enemy team is coordinated, it's much less important at lower level plays. I would say at lower level plays, you only want to use Cleanse against like cleansable heroics, stuff that you know is coming. For example, you can cleanse someone out of an ETC mosh pit. So for example, let's say your Johanna gets stuck in a mosh pit. You can cleanse her out of the mosh pit, and then she can use Condemn and cancel the mosh for everyone else. Or Merryday, same sort of thing. You can also cleanse off Murky's Octograb, which is hilarious and really cruel. Just stuff like that. That's the kind of thing you're going to be cleansing usually. I think you can cleanse people out of Lamb to the Slaughter as well. They can just walk out of it. Yeah, stuff like that. That's typically the stuff you're going to be cleansing. You're not going to cleanse much of anything else. You can also you can pre-cleanse the Hunt. Yeah, you can pre-cleanse the Hunt. You can pre-cleanse Judgment. All that sort of stuff. If you're really good, you can pre-cleanse a Hook, which is huge. Cleanse people out of a grab, that sort of thing. But yeah, Cleanse. It's massive at top level play, but not so much of the others. This is it is a big issue though in terms of supports, because again, supports either heal or they're bringing a Cleanse. And again, with adding, this was something I mentioned when I was doing my last big patch discussion, is that they added Cleanse to Lily. They have to add Cleanse to so many heroes to make them viable as these solo supports, that they've homogenized so much. It's something that I've noticed as well, and this is something I mentioned, is that with Medivh coming in, right? So Medivh, he's kind of like, he's a support, he's not a support though, he's a specialist, because support has become this healing focused role. Whereas Medivh, he's a supporty type character, but they're labeling him as a specialist because he doesn't bring any healing, but he can give people protection, which makes them immune to damage on a really short cooldown. He also brings massive team mobility. He brings, crowd control with his heroics. He's all about supporting, but in a non-healing way. I think these sub roles are really interesting. I think at this rate, you could pretty much put Tyrande into the healer, because you can build her as a healer, and she's good enough as a solo healer. You can also build her for some damage, but she doesn't do as much damage as Assassins or Siege if your teammates are playing good. You can do a lot of damage with Tyrande relative to your teammates if they're bad, but if your teammates are good, she's not going to do as much. She's more about, she brings that good crowd control. She brings the kill pressure with her Hunter's Mark and some zone control with Starfall, and then heals on top of that. Or you can build her as a full healer, but she's kind of in a weird spot. Tassadar, they changed Tassadar, right? I remember this. They had to patch Tassadar to change him to be better at healing, to put out better healing numbers. They nerfed his damage, and they made him more about healing. And I think it's really interesting. They had to do it because I think there's so few supports in the game. They haven't added a support in almost a year since Lieutenant Morales. It's crazy. It's been so long without another support hero, and there's so few support heroes. Even compared to warriors, there's, what is that, like 4 more warriors? No, Well, if you compare the two, there's 4 more in the right hand row and 2 more here. There's 6 more warriors than there are supports. And then, God, like specialists and assassins, there's just so many more. It's crazy. But I really do feel like they've had to homogenize Tassadar and Tyrande, especially to make them better at being healers, because they need more variety in terms of healers because there's so few in the game. I think with Medivh being added, it's really interesting. I almost feel like if they had more supports, they could almost like revert the Tassadar changes. Bring back Tassadar, who does like damage and force walls. And then he's got a little bit of shielding too to help out. But then have him being more of this contested pick. I think with Medivh is going to be like another sort of Tassadar. They're going to be kind of contested picks with each other because they fulfill that sort of secondary support role, bringing kind of utility and enabling their melee assassins. That's what they're going to be really good at, I think. Yeah, I think. I think that's really interesting. But I mean, they could revert the changes to Tassadar and have him be even more in competition with Medivh. Okay, neither hero does much healing, but they just enable melee assassins a bit. They do some damage and they bring a lot of utility. I just think that's a really interesting comparison, comparing to like the old Tassadar to the new Tassadar to Medivh. Or how they haven't labeled Medivh as support because he doesn't heal. They've put him as a specialist, which is kind of nuts. Or like, where are they even going with the support design? Because they've made them more and more heal bots, more and more about cleanse and about healing, and less about other stuff. You know, what can they do? One thing I thought about is like, could they bring more crowd control to support? In League of Legends, and this is something that people are mentioning in the comments as well, in League of Legends, that you don't have the idea of a heal bot at all. The supports bring utility, they bring crowd control. I think it's really interesting in terms of design that it's warriors that bring most of the crowd control. They could add a lot more crowd control maybe to supports. Yeah, they could make like the Tassadar force walls, the Medivh, so much stuff Medivh does. They could add a lot more of this stuff to supports and make them just maybe even adding initiation. Yeah, adding the ability to initiate team fights to supports. More powerful crowd control, but then weaken their healing. Something like that. I suppose the issue as well is that if you weaken healing, then you make burst damage even more powerful. Like heroes that have burst, I mean, even sustained damage, like Falstad, Greymane, and they say sustained damage, but they've got like severe burst. Thrall as well, Vala to an extent. But I mean, you have like, yeah, if they make, that's the thing. If you change healing too much, then you change the interactions of how damage dealers work and how warriors work, and you make burst damage way more powerful if you nerf burst healing too. But yeah, support. It's weird the way they've had to homogenize it and that it is becoming healbot. When there's more, they could add maybe some CC. They could add more wave clear. That would make it so much more fun. You know, if they added just more baseline wave clear to these guys, just more damage. It's one of the things you'll notice in terms of just damage in general in the game is that warriors, even someone like Johanna, will have pretty good damage. Muradin will have pretty good damage at the end of the game, yeah? But supports have terrible damage. They just have no damage. They can't kill any heroes. They've got no kill pressure on their own. Yeah, no solo kill pressure, no abilities to clear waves, almost none. Like, just poor they're just bad at everything except healing their team, generally speaking. What could you add more crowd control? Could you add more damage? What can they do to make this role a bit more interesting? Why must supports stand out? It's not that I want to stand out, it's that you can't even if you want to. If you look at our match, you probably won't care what I'm doing unless the casters point it out. Even if I forget to give out the heals for 2 whole rotations, you probably won't care. Very few things are dependent on the skill of support, and the only support that can have a big impact on those limited situations is Rhaegar. That's the main real problem. Other supports need to be buffed up to Rhaegar's level. In the first place, if I wanted to stand out, I would have played a warrior or an assassin. A user keeps on asking why a healbot is a problem. It's not fun. You can't recruit any new supports in the pro scene. Hero League is a place where you can find new talents, but for support to win in Hero League, his teammates need to play well. It's rare to win because of a good support. Wah! I love this wah right at the end. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that's true. That's been my experience of Hero League as well. Even my experience of Quick Match is that I tend to stay away from the supports, except, again, what I mentioned before, Rhaegar, Tyrande, Tassadar. These are the ones I like playing because you can have more of an impact. You're not as reliant on your team. And as I said before, I built Lily for damage because I can have more of a team impact. I really don't like playing Brightwing. I really don't like playing Malfurion. I like playing Uther because he's the one I enjoy being a healbot on. I find it fun. You got lots of buttons to press. It's fun. I don't own Lieutenant Morales because I just have no interest in her because she's a healbot. Karazim I used to enjoy. I haven't enjoyed him much recently, but I like the mobility. I find that's entertaining. But yeah, just generally speaking, is you you lack the ability to carry in so many ways that you're purely there to enhance what your teammates are doing. So it can be very satisfying when you're with a good team and you can enhance their plays and you can make them do something awesome. Like Sonya dives in and hey, boom, you land a huge ancestral healing on her or something, and she just starts wrecking the enemy team. That feels good, but at the same time, you're still just making your teammates better. You don't feel like you yourself are doing much. Where sometimes, you know, with an absolutely beastly force wall, you can feel absolutely awesome. But like, it just doesn't feel as good as like landing like that sick chain barrel that knocks everyone back. Or, you know, just like pushing it, like leading the charge in the team fight, which warriors can do. Doing all the damage, which is what assassins do. Or, you know, pushing up waves, creating map pressure. There's so little you can do. And yeah, he's saying, you know, this guy's saying, you know, pro level play, it's really hard to find supports because people don't want to play supports. It's really hard for, you know, a support to find, you know, main support players in Hero League, because, you know, if you're going to play support all the time, you can only succeed if your teammates succeed, because it's all about enhancing their play. And if there's no good play there, you can't enhance it. Whereas at least with an assassin, you know, hey, I can jump onto Thrall and I can, you know, I can solo lane, I can push waves, I can take merc camps. There's a lot of stuff I can do, even if my team are all idiots. I can still make things happen. I can still maybe turn around a team fight for us. Whereas with the support, you can't do shit. You can't do shit. You're stuck. You're stuck following these idiots around and you're stuck. He's talking about Spring Championship. Let's skip that bit. This has probably been a really long video already. I don't know why cleanse should be buffed when CCs are getting nerfed. Nerfing CCs and removing cleanse is the shortcut to becoming healbot. Right now, the only skills to support are cleanse and heals. Yeah, so he's talking about he wants cleanse to be buffed. I'm not sure. Again, I feel like this is very representative of, again, like super top pro level play, competitive, organized 5v5 team level play. Again, I don't think it's representative, again, of support play across the board, because like I said before, cleanse becomes more important and more impactful the higher level you go and the better thing. I think, honestly, anything below diamond level play, diamond division play, cleanse really isn't much of a big deal at all, because the players aren't good enough to really play around or work with cleanse. I find it's really difficult. I think, you know, it's tough. I think, you know, sure, he wants to buff cleanse so that they're doing more. Oh shit, I just tapped away. He wants to buff cleanse. Yeah, I can see that. Must be buffed. But yeah, great. So this is what he's saying. Okay, let's read through this. So he's worried that nerfing CCs and removing cleanse would make everyone a heal bot, which is true, because the only things that supports really do right now are cleanse and heal. There are already many who don't want to play support, and if there aren't any playing it, the pool just deteriorates. Look at the amateur and pro scene right now. It's really hard to find good support. New supports need to trickle down from the user base to the amateur scene to the pro scene, but it's stagnant because people don't want to play the role. I'm not saying cleanse must be buffed, I'm just saying playing support isn't fun, and why I think it isn't fun. That's how cleanse came up. Supports don't go around pushing a lane or actively leading ganks with their CC. That's why, I think, buffing cleanse and unnerfing CC is the way to help strengthen the theme of support. So yeah, so I kind of disagree with him on this one. You know, I think, yeah, buffing cleanse would make supports maybe more impactful at top level play for sure, but I don't think that would translate well to, you know, the level of play that 90% of players are playing at. I think you really want to add, I think you need to look at maybe nerfing the CC of the warriors a bit and adding more CC to supports, or adding stuff like Medivh and Tassadar force walls, you know, Tyrande Starfall, things like that, adding more utility to the supports. Also, really important, I do think, you know, you need to add some wave clear to the goddamn supports. They need more damage. They need more, like, nerf their healing a little bit, but add a bit more damage. That would have ripple on effects, wouldn't it? If, like, suddenly the healers become weaker and they start doing more damage, then suddenly bursts become so much more. It's such a tricky thing to do. And, like, I think it's a really tricky thing in terms of game design, isn't it? It really is. But I think, you know, even some way to do more wave clear with less, without needing talent picks. Again, like I said, it's like Brightwing, Tassadar, and Rhaegar are the only ones by default that can wave clear well. That's abysmal, isn't it? Compare it to all of these guys. So many of these can wave clear well without talents. So many warriors can do it well without talents. It's painful. It's painful in some ways. But yeah, I mean, clans, buffing clans and unnerfing CC, I don't think so. I like what they've nerfed with CC. I think maybe transition some CC to supports or just some utility and add them more wave clear. Just give them stuff that they can do. Make them more viable solo. Yeah? Make them more viable solo because they're too focused right now on they are literally too focused on being a heal bot and building into damage, like opting into damage on Lily or Karazim or Malfurion or Uther. The heroes that can opt into damage, it starts to cripple your ability to be a healer, then to be that solo healer. And again, like in terms of these pro level players, you know, the Tassadars and the Medivhs, like some of that interesting support that's going to be there is going to be for the flex players. It's not going to be for the main support hero because, again, having a healer is just too valuable at good levels of play. So he's like the least, a user said he's the least healbot-like support player who's calling himself a healbot, and then crying face. I try not to play like a healbot because I don't want to be a healbot. He's the antithesis. But a healbot is a healbot. Wah! Rhaegar in scrims, Rhaegar in tournaments, Rhaegar in practice. Gah! He's going crazy because Rhaegar is so much played. And then what do you think of Medivh? I think this says a lot. Honestly, he feels like the most support-like support, but I won't get to play him, so no interest. Again, it's going to go to Kyocha. It's going to go to their Tassadar player. It's their Abathur player. He's going to be the guy who's going to be playing Medivh. It's not going to be the healer player because the healing is just too important right now. Having heals and cleanse is too important. And that's boring because that's all you do. You're just there to heal and cleanse, and you don't have impact in other ways. You don't, and he doesn't have the variety of playing Tassadar or Medivh, these different styles of support, because it just doesn't fit in the team comp. He's convinced everyone to demand buff so I can enjoy the game, so I'll part of my plan. But there you go, guys. I don't know, that was probably kind of rambly because I'm kind of going through the thoughts on my own, but let me know what you think. I mean, like, I do enjoy playing supports. I do like it. I like playing Rhaegar. I like playing Uther. I'd say, out of all the heroes, I'd say most of the heroes that I actively dislike playing are within the support role, though. You know, like, I have not enjoyed playing Brightwing, or Morales, Malfurion, Karazim. Don't enjoy him too much anymore either. Like, that's relative to the amount of heroes that there are. That's a lot that I don't enjoy, and I think it's probably the same with other people. Like, one thing I noticed was when I made the Tyrande videos, people were like, whoa, Tyrande actually looks kind of good. I must give her a try. I didn't realize she was fun. Yeah, isn't that kind of sad? Brightwing is just an unpopular hero in general. Tassadar, people rarely take him because, again, he doesn't function that well as a solo support. So you're so limited, and you see the same heroes again and again and again and again in Hero League Draft. You see Rhaegar pretty much every game. You see a Rhaegar. Morales sometimes. Uther, if Rhaegar's taken. Lily, if they've got like auto attacks, and then Karazim is like a desperation sort of pick. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. The support is in a bad spot, I think, in the game at the moment, more than any other role. Like, they need more supports. I like Medivh. I think Medivh is really good, but they need more like this. They spent too long without adding supports, and I wonder, I think someone was saying it down here in the comments, you know, you wonder, I forget where it was, but like, you wonder where Blizzard are going with their game design, and like, are they struggling to fit supports in? Because, like I said, again, they have homogenized them an awful lot. Adding cleanse to Lily, improving the healing of Tyrande and Tassadar. They've had to homogenize them an awful lot, and they haven't added any new ones. Like, are they floundering a bit with where they're going in terms of that game design? And what can they do to change it? Again, more CC, maybe more wave clear. Just look at all the ways that heroes can carry a game, and try to add that a bit more to supports. I don't know. It's tricky. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, that's what I think. I thought this is an interesting video to follow up on the idea that I was talking about with supports not being good to carry a draft in Hero League. This is just another thing. And on top of this, you know, the best support player in the world saying, you know, hey, in terms of gameplay, which again I alluded to in that video, I didn't want to get into, but now I can get into it because people won't get mad at me because it's the best support player in the world, you know? He kind of knows what he's talking about. He's saying, you know, supports are kind of boring. You lack the ability to carry your team because you're very much a heal bot and a cleanse bot. And again, what that means at lower levels of play where cleanse doesn't matter is you're purely a heal bot. And that the game is moving more and more towards heal bots as well with nerfing CC. And, you know, something needs to change. Something needs to change. And he suggests, you know, maybe cleanse being buffed. I think yes, that helps. I also think they need to add more stuff though. They need to take a look at this healing role and do something. There you go. That's what I think. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.